All right, it's time for another Starbase summary. I'm actually in an airport right now. Not going to tell you which one, but SpaceX doesn't slow down, so why should we? Kicking it off, this is October 19th with some refurbishment work over on the OLM. After that catch, they've been doing a lot of checkouts and cleaning some things up. You can see there in the distance, that's Ship 31 over in the high bay. And we've got that little arm sort of going through the haze there in the background. That's a concrete pumper in the back. Here's the LR 1100 crane getting lowered down. Are they going to reconfigure it, or are they getting it out of the way for testing? We see both those things happen, and we'll see which one this is. Got a tanker truck there down in the middle of the frame. Says filling of GSE tanks. Actually, a couple tanker trucks in there. That one seems to be pointing away. That's actually pointing back up Highway 4. So maybe it's already finished its load, or it's going to back in, actually. There you go. If it was empty, it probably would have left, not sat there in that direction. So I guess that truck turned around and was waiting to back in. So we've been watching HOS Ridgewind. I don't know if it's HOS or HOS, whichever. But we've been watching what it's doing. Gav with Space Offshore, one of our regular NSF folks over here, has been tracking this ship and watching where it goes and what it does. And here we saw it playing around in the area where we thought the Hotstaging ring had splashed down. More on that in a bit. This crane is crazy because you can see how the boom bends a little bit. It's like got a little bend to it when you look at it down the sort of down the barrel like that. But it's coming back up again. Some tough video here, but Ridgewind was out there around the area that we estimated the Hotstaging ring had splashed down. Well, that's some angry water. Didn't make a catch that time, but that is an angry Gulf. I wonder if the sea state, maybe they had located it, but they decided not to go for a recovery with that sea state. I'm not sure. I'm just looking at the waves being like, wow, I'm glad I'm not out there trying to do that. Oh, is this the drag chain? It looks a lot different. It said cable chain there. We saw that drag chain. I'm like trying to squint down to 2010 and see if I can see if that's that same chain we saw on the truck in the previous video. But that helps keep the cables secure as pieces on the tower move around. It's like a movable channel that protects and guides cables, hoses, that sort of stuff. SPMT rolling away. That's a laser-guided camera because you can tell it focuses so fast. When they do that rack zoom, that really fast zoom, and then it's in focus before the zoom stops, it's because it's lased the target and got a range to it, and it already knows what focus the lens is supposed to be at before the lens actually finishes moving. It can focus it faster than it can zoom it. Anyways, more camera effects. I know every now and then people are like, camera effects? What do I? You know something, I like the camera effects. I think a lot of people find them interesting. So we're going to toss some camera effects in on occasion. But moving one of the big stands here into the production area. Peeking in the Starfactory. Always wondering, like without being able to see the labels and that sort of stuff, you wonder exactly what you're looking at in there. I do appreciate the I appreciate the glass windows they've installed there so we can see the hardware. Moving another piece of a future ship. It's got some tiles on it there. And probably other things that tell you that it's a ship part versus a booster part. But the tiles are a dead giveaway. Boosters don't get tiles. Sometimes in these videos I say something like that and then I sort of like squint at it and I'm like, wow, those are tiles. That wasn't just like weird reflection or anything, right? But if you disagree while you're watching it, let me know. Looks like they're putting up some glass. We've been watching them work on this for quite a few videos now, and Mary's caught them putting in some glass there. Yeah, the big vacuum system that vacuums onto that glass. Like, it's not a cradle or anything like that. I think it's just suction that holds those up. And if anybody's ever worked with things like that, let me know. Like, tell me down in the comments if those things truly are just glass. or suction for those big frames. I called this the hippo in the previous video, and a bunch of people in the comments were like, "Oh, a hippo? What do you mean hippos? This isn't serious. It's what it's called. Like it's called a hippo." I don't know. Back over to Starhopper. Were they polishing it? They grinding off nubs or something there? Oh, that's a forward flap. Look, get the camera up. There we go. PTZ it over there. It looks like a ship flap that's being forklifted around. A bunch of earth being moved out there around Pad B, Pad West, Pad Bravo, Pad Part 2, Electric Pad Boogaloo, whatever you want to call it. And to zoom in from Mary on the chopsticks over here. It said work on the chopsticks, but I think that guy was just looking at that. I'm not sure exactly what they did. But here, this is back at the Sanchez site, and work on the accoutrements, the mechanisms, the pieces for the second tower. We're sort of pre-assembling things over here. You see the chopstick carriage there in the background on the left-hand side. And then the big arm there that they're moving that piece around to connector weld. Here's one fully assembled if you wondered what it looked like. But the booster QD cover there on the upper left-hand side there, it moves right there, is closing down. They work on that a lot. That's a really important piece because you don't want the booster taking off or the booster landing, being caught, to absolutely torch those connections in there that need to make seals, right? On both ends of the flight, which is an interesting thing to say. There's the transport stand scooting around again. Like sometimes it's like a lot of times you can use this to inform things, right? You see the transport stand, and you can know, okay, there's a booster here, and they're moving the transport stand, so they might be getting ready to roll that booster out or whatever, right? So you may wonder, why do we show like a transport stand going through the gate again? There's usually more context behind it, like why we were watching that, because it might have been going to pick something up, and that clues us into things like this. Booster 13 being lifted in preparation for a future roll out to the pad. You can see that booster move up and move over. I think a lot of people watch these videos and they're like, what is that? I don't even understand why this is important. But we're like reading the Starbase tea leaves, right? We're divining what may happen at Starbase by the movement of equipment and the movement of resources. Dirt work happening here. These types of cranes doing this. This piece of equipment crawling from this yard to that. We use those so that we know what to look out for so we don't miss things. And I mean, guarantee you we miss a lot. But here is some tough, wow, this nighttime grainy video. This is like surveillance footage of HOS Ridgewind. I'm just going to go with HOS. It sounds cooler. Plus, it's in South Texas right now. HOS sort of fits in, right? Oh, that persistent in the slow frame rate there. The red and green lights sort of sticking in negative. But it was working out there. There's some Nosecones marching by in the Starfactory. What sort of music they play in the Starfactory? They play like, I don't know, Test Dot Starfish sort of stuff. Do they play like Oompa Loompa music in there? I really wonder what tunes they jam out to while working on these things. I hope they play something out loud. I hope you don't walk in there and it's just all silent. Work continues on the OLM and tower. The running joke, work will never be done on these things, especially when the cadence picks up, which is a problem I think we're all okay with. We like to see rockets fly, so we expect to never see work cease on these things. I really do think at some point they're going to move into a more replaceable system instead of having lifts everywhere, right? There's some peek at these on occasion. Back over at the production site, those Nosecone tiles looking good. Chopsticks being raised. Folks walking around on the deck of the OLM there, sort of for scale. Cranes up. This is one of those shots where you're like, oh, do I track it? No, I have this camera framed. Don't move the camera. Just let it go out of frame, and then we have another camera. And this is a different shot. You can see because it's down lower again, right? So we've backed off and replayed the same thing from another camera that was wide. So a lot of times we do this. We have one camera wide to sort of catch the gross larger movement so it doesn't go out of frame. We have one camera sort of zoomed in, so we get the detail of what's happening, because sometimes those close-in shots are a little more interesting than the wide shots, but the wide shot gives you the context and capture the entire operation. So most of our sites have at least 2 cameras, and when we can spare the power, we have 2 cameras online, and it's usually set for 1 wide and 1 close, or 1 sort of wide and 1 inspection, 1 locked out for time-lapse, and 1 to look around and inspect stuff with, right? Okay, here we go. During the day, this new camera we put out here, just before the trip I'm on right now, and actually caught the Ridgewind with its catch. The Hotstaging ring, slightly worse for wear, after impacting the Gulf of Mexico at some number of meters per second or miles per hour. I won't wager a guess. I didn't see if it was tumbling or which direction it was in. I don't know the mass offhand, and I'm not going to try to do quick math while I'm recording this live. Wow. Jeez, put that thing down. The water in the boat moving around. Thing's waggling all over. Can we find a secure way to put... Oh, maybe they had to flip it around because it wanted to go one way, but the center of mass had it going overboard, and then they rotated it 180 so it would lay down into the deck of the ship instead of try to lay overboard. Interesting. That's pretty cool that they got that back and they can inspect it, though. So here's another big one. Going to have gratuitous footage of the preparations here, because Booster 13, the next one in line, getting ready for its campaign. It's not just barely over a week from the launch and the catch. And here we have another booster ready to go, rolling out. All gas, no brakes. This is why I have to record these sitting in an airport 30 minutes before I board a flight. I like this. A lot of times these rollouts are at night, and the light trucks come through and sort of blind you, so it's really hard to see on occasion, right? But here, we actually have a daytime rollout, which is pretty rare. I don't know if SpaceX was doing this for the views. Sometimes they minimize the daytime road closures for things like this, and they just do it overnight, right? At night when the road's less busy. They're really the ones out there using it versus people going to the beach or whatever, but whenever they do decide to do it during the day, I am completely okay with it. Going to turn the corner here at the Y at LBJ. This is where the roadblock is usually. And from this perspective, it's going to sort of go to the left. From its perspective, it's turning to the right. It's going to come right past our highway site, aptly named because it's right there on the highway. Now it's apparently past the highway site, going out to the 2 towers, almost 3 towers, but that one's really a vehicle, so it doesn't get to count as a tower. I've seen apartment buildings smaller than these things, though, so if they were to maybe bolt it to the ground, maybe it could count as a building. I want to make it into an Airbnb. I want one of the old boosters or ships, and I want to like make it into a multi-story Airbnb. Would you stay in the Starbase Airbnb if it was literally made from the body of a ship or a booster? You know you would. I didn't even have to ask that question. That's a dumb rhetorical question. Anyways, here's the Ridgewind after it has recovered the hot staging ring, coming into the jetties there at the port of Brownsville. The port is way to the right. This is just the entrance to sort of the port area. And here's the Chopsticks closing over on the booster. Previously, in that previous clip before Ridgewind, you saw the booster scoot in between the Chopsticks and get into the ready-to-lift position. There's the QD swinging out of the way. You got to swing the QD out so that the catch system can go up past where the QD is. Raise the booster up so the aft end, the bottom end of the booster, clears the OLM. Not just the main deck of the OLM, but also the quick disconnect there. Goes above everything, gets dark. The views get more difficult here. You can see the UFOs hanging out there on the right-hand side of the tower, those 3 little points of light, just keeping track of what happens at Starbase. That's a camera lens flare. camera lenses. How do they work? There's bright lights in one side, and they reflect on the inside of the camera on the other side, because we do not leave $10,000 lenses that would not have that artifact out on the beach 24/7. This is a security cam with a very limited optics package, and let's say relatively cheap glass. If one gets taken out by the wind or the salt, it's okay, and it creates little UFOs like that. It is not actually a... Oh, NASA spaceflight confirms UFOs watching Starbase. Seriously. This is a very serious video. Come on. And here we go again. Getting ready for that next test campaign before Flight 6. Remember, they fly the same thing, fly the same profile. FAA has already cleared them for a twofer, Flight 5 and Flight 6. My name's John. You may know me as DOS. Thanks to Mary and Jack and the SBL team for catching all the footage. And thank y'all for watching. Take it easy.